So I was in high school, and they had a work-study program. And you could either go into dental hygiene or into retail. Well, great choice. I didn't even floss, so I figured I will go into retail. And I thought it would be just so cool. Now, in 1965, 17 magazine was as thick as a phone book. And in 1965, if you were in high school, you wanted to wear what was on the cover of 17 magazine. And so in the department store that I was going to work at, which was called Abraham and Straus, big store on Long Island, I said to the people in personnel, I want to work in juniors. Figuring I had already told all my friends in school that I'd be in juniors, because I figured you just tell them where you want to work. They'd be so happy to have you. So I showed up on my first day and said to the woman when they gave me my name badge, so I'll just be reporting to juniors. And she goes, no, you'll be reporting to small electrics. And I said, excuse me? I don't know what a small electric is. She said, it's toasters and irons. You take the escalator to the basement and you walk all the way to the back. Between the loading dock and the bathroom, it's a little department, it's toasters and irons. So I go down on the escalator. I don't know how I'm gonna get out of this whole thing telling my friends where I'm gonna be. Might have to keep it a secret. I show up and there is a salesperson there. She's tall, wearing a black dress, glasses on a chain, a bun with 2 pencils stuck in it. She's so old, she has to be at least 40. Now today I think 40 is a baby. But when you're 16, 40 is an old bat. So I said to that old bat, well, I'm here, what do? Had a real positive attitude. And she says, here's the Windex, here's the rag, get the fingerprints off the toasters. I went, ooh, you have to clean? I didn't know you had to clean in a store. If any of you work in any kind of business, do you know that you have to get out the Windex, the rag, the dust, the mop, the broom, pick up after people? What kind of homes are these people living in? Slobs, that's what I'm saying. Messing our places up. You think we clean at home? I don't think so. I do enough picking up at work. The bottom line is, I don't know. I had to say to this lady, okay. So I rewrapped the iron cords, nobody came. I got the fingerprints off the toasters, nobody came. Nobody just gets a hankering and goes, I need a toaster. So I don't know why they had 2 of us. It was such a teeny department. You see, in the 60s, they didn't have bread makers, pasta bakers, waffle makers. They didn't have the Foreman grill. Do you realize how much stuff is in small electrics now that they didn't have? They didn't even have a blender. They didn't even have a toaster oven yet. They didn't have any Cuisinart. So, I mean, it was just toasters and irons. In any case, I was just overwhelmed. So the department was really tiny. It was just this big, so I was pacing. So it didn't take long to pace. And no one came. So on Wednesday, I'd been there 3 days, I prayed. Now, I was relatively spiritual, and I said, God, if I'm meant to be in retail, my girlfriend was having much more fun with the dentist. And I'm thinking, I just chose the wrong profession. So I said, God, if I'm meant to be in retail, you better show me a sign. Just then, you know, when you're 16, signs happen very quickly. You know, the loading dock was right next to Small Electrics. Through the loading dock doors comes one of the guys with a dolly. On the dolly is a box that says Clairol Kindness Rollers. So being the positive person that I am, I go, why are we getting rollers? He said, because they're electric rollers. This is Small Electrics. I go, that's true. However, I'd never heard of electric rollers. Who had? In 1965? In the 60s. Let me just take you back a moment. In 1965, we ironed our hair. If you had a really good friend, you put it on low, and you put your head on the ironing board. In 1965, we set our hair with foam rollers, little pink foamies that left roller marks, or we used brush rollers. And then you had to hang off the side of the bed or use toilet paper under your ears. In 1965, we had bangs and spit curls, all of us. And we would use pink tape to tape down the spit curls. Do you remember that? In and then you'd rip off raw skin in the morning. In 1965, we used something called dippity-doo. In 1965, we set our hair on Minute Maid juice cans. The whole head in juice cans. See, I can tell who's young. They're going, what? Then we put a chiffon scarf over it and we went to the mall. Why? Because when people saw you, they knew you had a date that night. Do you remember that? Do you remember in the 60s everyone walked around in rollers in public? Now, if you saw a woman in rollers in public, you'd go, look at that trailer park trash. Can you believe she left the house in rollers? I mean, when have you seen a person in rollers? It's just not done. But in the 60s, you had to wash and set your hair every day. Now, we had two kinds of ways to dry it. We either had the big pink GE bonnet, mushroom cloud, you remember that with the big machine thing, and then they even had a holster in case you wanted to put it on your hip and vacuum. In the ad, it showed you. Wouldn't you get electrocuted if you had an electric appliance on you and you were vacuuming? Not in the 60s. We were women. We did everything. Others of you had the the Schick two-tone blue dome that looked like this domey thing that you sat in the kitchen and you sat under it like a beauty parlor. It wasn't pretty, was it? The 60s, I have to paint this picture because you have to understand that hot rollers were such a revolutionary thing. I opened with a carton and there were 12 boxes. And it was this kindness rollers. It was little gray plastic with a handle. Some of you still have it in the basement, right? Remember the little blue base? And the directions said that you plug them in, you put them in dry hair, and in 10 minutes, the little dots will turn, and you'll have a new hairdo. So I said to the old one, hey, I'm going to put them in my hair. She goes, hey, they're going to fire you. And I said, well, I haven't made a sale all week. I think that ship has sailed. So I had nothing to lose. I've also lived by one motto, and that is it's far better to get forgiveness than permission. So I put the rollers in my hair. I used the toaster as a mirror. And it wasn't pretty. They were going in all these directions. But guess what? A crowd gathered in the basement. And those New Yorkers, they're like, what are you doing? I go, well, and then in the 60s, you held the box next to your face, right? For any commercial. And so I took the box and I went, hi, I have them in my hair. I've got these kindness electric rollers in my hair, and in just a few minutes, when my dots turn, I will have a new hairdo. And the people in the audience, my little group of 8 people who had gathered go, we'll wait. So finally somebody said, hey, your dots just turned. I took the rollers out, I looked in the toaster, I had to use my fingers as a brush, and it went into like a Laura Petrie, Mary Tyler Moore, Marlo Thomas flip. Remember that flip? And I had to look in the mirror of the toaster and say, ooh. And the customers looked at me and went, ooh. And when customers go, ooh, they want whatever you're selling. Ring them up. And I said, how many of you would like to buy one? I actually asked for the order. And they went, I'll take one. They didn't even know how much it was. They go, how much is it? I go, $29. Oh, I use that special word. I mean, these things just came to me. Only $29.88, which, think about that, in 1965 was like about $1,000 today. And they went, if I never have to sleep on brush rollers again, I'll take one. And someone else said, I want to send one to my daughter in college. And before I knew it, I sold 3. Well, I'm not stupid. I plugged them in and rolled my hair up again. And each time I rolled my hair up, my dots turned. People said, your dots turned. I brushed my hair out in the toaster. I was beautiful. I said, ooh, they said, ooh, and they bought one. But Friday afternoon, I sold 11 of the 12. The 12th was the demo. I called the buyer and said, I got good news and bad. The good news is I sold 11 sets of kindness rollers. The bad is my hair's falling